we have a few donations. There's a €7.5 donation from Atrius with no comment, and another anonymous donation for €5 without comment. Thanks guys for the donations, and we have a €5 donation from Dolani who says, Daily Live. It seems we are all set for the Ōkami run, so good luck to Kenin.
Hi everyone, I'm Kenin. Hi. And this is Ōkami. We'll be playing this in New Game Plus, so I'm going to be starting off of a fresh file. You also get to see how many practice files I have. They're useful, So here we have my New Game Plus any percent file. So without much further ado, can I get a countdown?
Ready in 3,
2,
1, go!
There we go. Now the wonderful PS3 loading times. Anyways, the cool thing about New Game Plus any percent, first of all, that we can skip all the cutscenes, so we don't have to watch 14 minutes of cutscene at the start. Believe me, you do not want to run categories that do not have cutscene skips. We're gonna go straight into the tree. This is the tutorial area of the game. We're playing as Amaterasu, also known as Emi. She is a wolf god who has lost like her brush powers. You might notice me jumping in and out of cutscenes. That is to preserve my speed. Basically, whenever you jump into a cutscene, it stores your speed, and if you jump out of it, basically, it restores it as long as you don't touch the analog stick beforehand. So I mentioned the brush powers before. We're going to be using one you basically start off with, the ability to draw a star. Oh, if I can actually press the button. There we go. So in this case, we used it to finish a constellation, and by doing so, we got ourselves a new brush power. It's called Rejuvenation, and we can do this with it. Basically, the idea of rejuvenation is that it restores things, or it puts things back in its proper place by drawing the thing that is missing, basically. Mostly what people will be doing casually is just like grabbing the brush and just throwing it around and coloring everything black and just getting it. But yeah.
Can I interrupt for a quick donation?
Sure, go ahead.
We have a €4 donation by Cowmaster123 who says, Brrr, there are 5 Brazilian cows living on your farm. Daily Leaf is the man for Charizard.
Thank you very much. So here we're going to be using Rejuvenation to fix this broken sword. And in doing so, we can get ourselves a new brush power. Yeah, that was a bit too fast. So this brush power is called Power Slash, and what it does, it slashes things. It's one of those brush powers that most casual players will be using a lot throughout the game, because it's just a very useful damaging ability in fights as well. Oh, and just now we did our first skip. Basically, I walked around a fight trigger. For some reason in this game, when it comes to triggers, they're either too big or too small. We're going to skip another fight right here. And we skipped it. Just walking around it. We're going to be seeing that a few times later on. Now, right now, the idea is of this tutorial section to learn the Power Slash brush power and get back to return the souls of a village, basically, because a sort of demon has woken up and has cursed the lands, and we need to try and fix it. But for now, there's a village that is locked up inside a fruit. And the way we fix it is by cutting down the fruit. So here's the fruit. Oh, I missed it. And we cut it down. However, there's something wrong with the village. As you can see, it's kind of like we're in the Matrix right now. Everything is kind of green, you know? And all of the villagers are turned into stone. Now, usually you would go around and like talk to them and get a new brush power or an old brush power, but this is New Game Plus, so we're going to be skipping it. This is the first time I'm going to be using this glitch. I'm going to explain it right after I do it because it does require some focus. There we go. And that way we can skip the boulder. So what you just saw me do was go into the menu and quickly select what is known as a karmic transformer. Now, karmic transformers are basically items that give Amy a different skin. They're New Game Plus only, and they're pretty cool like that. And what I basically did was, in mid-air, for some reason, on the first frame after you switched your karmic transformer, you're on the ground for a single frame. For that frame, if you press the dash button, you can jump out of that dash and basically get infinite jumps. So we're going to be abusing that to completely destroy this game. So if you were hoping to have a nice, calming explanation of the story throughout the game and just relaxation, then you're in for a shock because we're gonna go ham on this game. Ah, damn. Now this is, the karmic transformers aren't the only things I get from New Game Plus. I'm going to be equipping a few things. I'm going to be equipping some of the best weapons in the game and a few special items that I'll explain later on. And what I just used to instantly finish this fight off is what is known as exorcism slips, or just slips. What slips do is they deal damage to everything inside of the battle arena. And because this is New Game Plus, all these slips that we had in our previous playthrough, or left over from our previous playthrough, carry over into the New Game Plus file. So what we can do is we can just store up a bunch of the best slips available and just have them for the run. So most of the fights in this run are going to be extremely trivialized. But there are some cool strats with a few of the bosses because they do take a bit more. So again, just quickly using a slip to kill everything. Now, there is one brush power that you can get that you technically already have, and it's called Sunrise. Now, the fact that you technically already have it is something that the game designers put through everything, because here we just use Sunrise without actually getting the animation. So there's a whole animation of getting Sunrise and everything, but because we never actually got it, the animation doesn't show up. Now we cannot use Sunrise randomly. We cannot make it day whenever we want to. However, whenever the story requires us to use Sunrise, the game allows us to just use it. So that's really neat. It's a nice little time save. I think it saves like a minute if the devs didn't put that in. Okay. Ooh, wow. Now, as you might notice that this place isn't... no, wait, that's the wrong section. Here we go. So this is Susano. He is the greatest warrior who ever lived, and I absolutely love his battle cries, so I'm just gonna say them along. Here we go. And... Su! Sa! No! Susano! And then, sadly, this one is kind of weird. Exploding implosion. I'm not sure that's the way that works. Anyway, we're gonna grab the ball from this way. This ball is the worst thing. It has extremely precise collision checking, so you need to be very careful as to how you're moving. Or, like, not even against it. We want to push it up here, like that. And then get it into the little basin. So the idea is, you saw that little green plant over there. The idea is that we put the ball here, and then we use sunrise to make the little tree grow. So we do this. Oh wow, it didn't react. Game please. Thank you. So that's another moment where we use sunrise even though we technically don't have it. And by making the tree grow, you'll see in a bit how big it is, we get ourselves a new brush power. This is Bloom. It basically blooms this tree or any other tree. And the idea of these trees is that they're guardian saplings, so they basically make the world good. And the idea of the game is that you go around and bloom all of those guardian saplings. Yeah, got it. Nice. So there we just jumped over another fight. There's a trigger right there, and if you do another infinite jump glitch or a KT glitch, we can just jump over its trigger. It's pretty useful. Nice. Now here is a fight, and I don't feel like doing it, so we're just gonna walk around it. Easy like that. It's kind of like the first couple of fight skips. Just walk around it. It's easy. But now that we have Bloom, we can go up into Shinshu Field right here, and you see all the gray and the black and the red. We're gonna get rid of that by blooming the guardian sapling of this place. These cutscenes are actually quite beautiful, and I always get a little bit sad that I have to skip them. But yeah, now that we've completed the blooming of that tree, the game expects you to do a lot of things and to explore Shinshu Field and all that jazz, but I feel like doing something completely different. How about we just skip it and just go on to the next area? What do you guys say about that? So we're gonna jump our way up here. And there we go. And go into the next area. Let's go. Now, sadly, this is Agata Forest, and it's been cursed as well. So the first thing we have to do is we have to find ourselves the Guardian Sapling. Now, technically, I'm not supposed to enter from here, so we're going to be entering the cursed zone for a little bit. And the cursed zone isn't fun, because you basically just slowly lose your health and you die, and you can't use your brush powers. So it's a little obnoxious. Anyways, by going in here almost instantly, we skip the brush power, and we need that brush power to get to the tree normally. However, we can just go out of bounds like this, and there's the tree, and we can bloom it from out of bounds. For some reason, that just works, and it's really nice. There we go. And then go through the worst tunnel in existence. This tunnel has your camera locked, and it basically just messes your movement up completely. Now we're going to be jumping up right here. There's an absolutely huge trigger for like a cutscene and a sort of boss fight idea. I'm going to reset this real quick. Have I mentioned that these tricks are frame perfect? Anyway. We still have to be careful, by the way. If I swerved too much to the left right there, I would have still hit the trigger. That's how big it is. And we basically just skipped it now. And there we go. Now we're going to be jumping up right here and looking at that little pond. And you saw it like start glowing green and sparkly and stuff like that. That is basically a fast travel station, in this game known as Mermaid Springs, and we use those. We're going to be using those a little later on for like fast traveling, but you do have to activate them. Right here, I did another kind of KT glitch. Now with the KT glitch, what you can't do is you can't do it above water. You can't like jump above water for some reason. So what we do instead is we do a dash right over the water's surface, and switch KTs, and that allows us to jump out of that switching of KT without even having to time a dash or anything. And it's a really useful trick for skipping the rest of Agata Forest and going straight here. So once again, I need to go somewhere, but I do not have the brush power to do so. So instead, we're going to be jumping up here and going inside the area where we need to be through its exit, basically. Instead of, entering through the exit. It's just a short little walk here.
Do we have time for a quick donation?
Yeah, one quick one can do.
We have a €50 donation by Kenrick that says, "The Masters of the Universe are here to help." And another €11 donation by Anonymous with no comment.
So here we fought against Waka. That's the guy we avoided in Agata Forest. And you might have noticed that the fight was over just about instantly. Now, the reason why is because we have one of the best weapons in the game, but we also have a different item equipped. It's called the String of Beads, and you get it from a giant collectathon all throughout the game. And what it gives you is, it gives you basically infinite health, infinite ink, so we can draw how many times we want, and 10 times attack power. So that just trivializes fighting even more. Dying in this speedrun is literally impossible, unless you don't run with the String of Beads, which I do not recommend. But yeah, it basically makes the entire game more focused on movement and on the KT jump, which honestly I kind of like. I'm not that good at the fight strats in this game sometimes. I've learned from the other categories. Anyways, now that we've bloomed Taka Pass, for the first time, we are not going to skip the entirety of Taka Pass. We're actually going to do things here. Isn't that amazing? So we're going to go over here first. There is a demon gate over here. Now, the idea with demon gates is if you run under them like this, you trigger a fight. And usually this fight has multiple enemies. So you defeat the first set of enemies, and then you wait, and you get the next set. Oh. As you might have noticed, each enemy has like a specific way you have to defeat them using the brush. It's actually really cool and interesting, and I do very much like the battle system in this game. So we fought that demon gate to get a mermaid spring ready. Again, fast travel stations, very useful. And we're going to go straight into this area. Now, this is going to be Sasa Sanctuary. And it's basically run by Sparrow Mafia, I like to call them. However, their daughter is gone, so the gates are closed. But no matter, we can just jump over the loading zone right here. Like this. And then we're going to make use of something really cool in this game. I'm going to jump out of bounds like this. I'm going to make sure I line up correctly. And 1, 2. Okay. So a cool thing about this game is that interior areas are below exterior areas. So if you go out of bounds and you fall down in the right spot, you can basically fall into houses, or in this case, the actual Sasa Sanctuary building. And it basically makes us skip a really, really big quest. And we're gonna help out this dude because the little sparrow has lost all the water to his bathhouse. So we're gonna go down and dig a spring for the guy. So in the digging game, the idea is to get the green guy over there all the way down to the bottom. It's called Mr. Bamboo. There we go. And by digging in the right spot, as highlighted by Mr. Bamboo, we get ourselves a new spring. Yay! And a new brush power. So this brush power is water spout. It basically gives us control over water. So for instance, we can douse this little guy, but we can also make water pillars like this. And we need it to be able to continue into the next area. So the gate to Sasa Sanctuary is still closed. So the way we're gonna get out of it is by basically just jumping over it. The reason we couldn't do this the other way around is mainly because you basically get turned back by a cutscene every time you get close. So you have to do the weird out of bounds trick. And for some reason it really doesn't work the other way around. Anyways, I think that's just about enough of Takapus for me. So we're gonna go straight to the next area. So you can see that brown thing in the background. Stay hydrated. So in City Checkpoint right here, the way you usually go over the bridge, because the bridge is raised, is by going into a dungeon and getting a certain brush power, and it's a long, long way around. Like the dungeon takes at least 20 minutes to even set up, let alone do. However, there's a really nice glitch while swimming, is that when you swim into a corner, for some reason the game gives you an auto jump. So by using that fact, we can jump our way up into this little alcove. We're not supposed to be here. And we're gonna be using more KTs to get our way all the way up here. And we just skipped like 20 minutes to half an hour of game just by doing that. It looks really simple, but it actually matters quite a lot. So on to Ryushima Coast. Now, Ryushima, yeah, well, it's cursed as well. At this point in the story, the people think that we've defeated the big bad, but for some reason, this is still cursed. Because there's another big bad, and we have to deal with him now. But yeah, story doesn't matter too much to us. So again, we do not have the brush power to get in there, so instead we're going to be jumping over. It's actually faster to do this even when you have the brush power. I'm going to be using a little camera trick to get water into this basin. Now, by putting water in the final basin, the little sapling over there is going to draw strength and become a big tree again. Like so. And by blooming, we basically just make the whole area accessible again.
May I interrupt for a quick donation?
Now, I mentioned before that interior areas are below exterior areas. We're going to be using that again, and in this case, we're going to be doing a really cool clip. It's called Stair Clip. Ooh, I missed it. Let's try that again. Oof. It can be a little bit finicky. I'm not turning quickly enough in this case. There we go. So for some reason, you can just clip into out of bounds using that little stair. You just run into it and you get it. And that way we can, with an extra jump, if I can get it, thank you, we can fall into this place. This is the dojo. And in the dojo, you can learn new techniques. And in this case, we're going to be learning the god technique called Holy Eagle. Now, what Holy Eagle does is quite simple. It gives you a double jump. Like so. Now, double jumps are just extremely useful because we're going to be using a lot of KTs coming up soon. And by basically getting the double jump, we almost completely half the amount of KTs we need to use. Because we get an extra jump anyway, so we don't have to KT twice for a single double jump, basically. And there we go.
Do we have time for a quick donation?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
We have a €1 donation from Dolani's Apprentice that says, he wants to be the very best, like no one ever was. And his name is Dolani. Can he tame a Kyogre? Hopefully.
Thank you very much. So yeah, by jumping over there to the left, by the way, we skipped another fight trigger. Because we don't like doing a lot of fights. And here we're just gonna jump over this gate. You have like two guys saying like, hey, you can't enter, but you can just jump right over them and they'll totally allow you in. And go into Northern Ryushima Coast. Now, Northern Ryushima Coast is has already been uncursed, and that's thanks to Waka over there. Now, it took me about 25 minutes to get there. But for some reason, Waka will always say, you're so slow to get here. It's like, please. Most people take like hours and hours to get here, and I only took 25 minutes. Yeah, Waka isn't always a nice guy. But at least he did the blooming for us, so we can just run all the way over here. Now, I've been mentioning the fast travel stations for a little bit. We're finally going to buy the item that allows us to use them. These are mermaid coins. Now, the reason why we can only really buy them right here is because we completely skipped the trigger that allows us to buy them everywhere else, basically. But the game designers were smart enough to say, like, well, we don't have to put in a check if you've hit that trigger all the time. So we're just gonna give you the mermaid coins right here. Also, this is Orca. Orca is amazing. We're gonna be seeing more of Orca a little bit later on. For now, we only really want to set him up so that we can use him to swim around a little bit later. But right now, we're gonna go into a fast travel station and travel to another area. Ooh. So in this case, you actually saw that usually there's like little icons for the fast travel stations, but because we skipped the trigger, they will never appear. So yeah, we just have to do it on what we know. So in this case, we're going to go up onto Kusa Village in the distance, also lovingly called Kuso Village, because it's a bad village. And I'm going to be doing something that is going to take a while. I'll explain in a bit. But first, you can see that Kusa Village is a bit cursed. There's weird floating Japanese characters around, and well, the entire atmosphere doesn't seem nice. Now, the idea is that you can't use your brush powers right now, and your ink will slowly run out. And even at infinite ink, you will eventually lose your ink. It's really weird. It's not very infinite, is it? There we go. And the way to fix this is to talk to Princess Fuse over there, but she can handle herself. Don't worry about it. She's made of stern stuff. She'll fix this village right up. We're just gonna leave them be. Because we're gonna be doing something that is going to take a while. So the same kind of exterior-interior area thing that I've been doing a couple of times applies to Gil Shrine. However, this time we're going to be doing this in reverse. So we're going to be doing a lot of infinite jumps. How many, you might ask? We're going to be doing about 100 in a row. And it's going to take us around 8 minutes to do so. So if you feel like you really had to go to the bathroom, or you don't have a cup of coffee, or you'd like something else to eat real quick, that was a nice moment to do so, because you're not going to be missing out on too much. We're just going to be out of bounds for a while. Oh wow, I got way higher than I'm used to. That's pretty nice. I'm doing a lot of menuing. So in the distance there, you see the big mountain thing. That is actually not yet the dungeon. That's the area around the dungeon, basically, where if you look out from the top of the windmill, basically, that's what you see. Now, the little white-blue thing you see, slightly to the right of Ōkami, is actually a body of water inside of the dungeon. And it's really nice that it's there, because it allows me to get an aiming point. I'm basically aiming slightly to the left of it, so that I will not... so I can fight my way. Well, so I end up in the right spot, basically. Now, you might be thinking, is he really going to be doing this for 8 minutes? And how is this faster than doing other things? Well, doing this basically skips a fetch quest that takes a long amount of time to do. It gives you another brush power, funnily enough, but you have to go around to, give me a moment, like 3 or 4 different areas and do a bunch of fights and do a bunch of things, and then you can finally enter the dungeon. However, this, you can just go straight into it, and it only takes 8 minutes. Whereas that one would take you probably about 15 minutes to complete. So, yeah, we're saving literal minutes by doing this. So while I'm doing a lot of KTs, I might as well talk about them a little bit more. One of the things you might notice is that whenever I finish a KT, so whenever the first menu happens, I buffer a single frame. Now the reason is that I'm not buffering an input like you would in for instance, Ocarina of Time or games like that. Instead, I'm just checking. I'm trying to see if I actually have completed the KT. The way you basically see that is that you can see Ōkami going into the first frame of the dash, and that allows me to know, like, yeah, I successfully did it. We can actually KT without doing the little buffer, and it saves 0.8 seconds on every single KT if we would do that, but it's extremely risky. Because if you do that and you miss a KT, you will instantly drop quite a bit, which is not something we want to be doing. But if we buffer the frame, you can see it that I drop just barely anything. Just a little bit. But just to give you guys an idea what bufferless would look like, it's about like this. Oh. Yeah, I can't do a lot of them in a row right now, so we're just going to continue with buffered. We have been implementing bufferless KTs a bunch in the top runs, because they just save so much time overall, especially in this section. And it's been pushing the world record time for this game down a little bit. Down to the point where we actually have a tied world record at the top, tied to the second. It's pretty funny. But it's one of the things that's possible in this game because we go by in-game time, and the in-game timer only shows you the seconds. It doesn't show you milliseconds, so. And this is the way we do things. So, with that back-facing polygon gone, we can finally see the rest of the dungeon in the distance. If I can get a KT. There we go. And if you look, you can see a little platform protruding out of the top right there. That's where I've been trying to go. So as you can see, I'm basically dead center of it. And that's mostly because the game gives you just enough things to look at so you can aim. I'm slightly low, however, so doing a bunch of KTs upwards. If you have anything to read out or anything, that was a nice moment. Just a short one.
For sure. Just gonna remember the viewers that if they are Twitch Prime users, they can consider using their free monthly subscription right here on the ESA channel. They'll get access to both the ESA and BSG emotes, and you get to support both events. During BSG Annual as well, any donation over €5 over the course of the event will make you eligible for one of the 10 Action Hanks Steam codes kindly donated to us by True Black Shark.
So we're getting slowly closer and closer to the end, and just to make this entire trip even worse, I'm going to be attempting another kind of glitch thing all the way at the end. So I'm currently setting up for that by changing my camera around and putting it in the right angle. And it can actually be very distracting from KTs. But I've been doing quite well, except for this fly in my face. Go away. I think it's gone. Don't worry, Thex, don't worry. Don't have to come and swat it. There we go. So we're gonna go straight up for a little bit here. I think my angle is just about right. I don't have to have a precise angle, so that makes my life a lot easier. So right here, we can finally see the platform. Now the platform is an octagon, basically. And we're gonna be doing something funky with it. It's very important that that is a thing you know it is. Okay, I'm slightly off. I'm just gonna drop down a bit. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to hit a trigger. Like this. There we go. Ah, I can rest. So basically, there's a trigger on the platform. However, that trigger is spherical. So if you can actually hit the trigger without being on the platform. So currently, I just void it out by tapping the brush real quick. It's very important that I do void out, or else I'll soft lock the game. It's not a pretty one. And because we've soft locked, we cannot see the constellation. But I still got it first try. That's really nice. And as you can see, because we voided out, we got put back at the start of the dungeon, because that was the last time we hit solid ground. So we just did like 100 KTs to go up, and we did one trick to go all the way back down. And this trick saves about 45 to 50 seconds simply by doing that. It's a really nice one. And now that we've got ourselves a new brush power called Gilstorm, we're just gonna go away. That's all we really needed from that dungeon. We don't need to finish the boss of that dungeon I mean, it would really help out the people in this village, but eh, I got better things to do. So right here, I'm jumping over an invisible wall so that I can... Yep. I can void out, and for some reason that puts me all the way back at the start of the village. Saves a good 10 seconds. I have no idea why it does that, by the way. It just does that, so I'm okay with it. So now that we've left Kusa village behind, and don't worry about the curse thing that they are or whatever. They'll deal with it. Don't worry about it. They got this. We're gonna go over and revisit another area that we completely skipped a while back. I'm gonna just grab a drink real quick. Guildstorm always takes a bit out of you. Focusing for 8 minutes straight is not fun. So yeah, now that we're back in Agata Forest, we're going to be working on its dungeon. Now the way that you're supposed to enter the Agata Forest dungeon is by talking to that little guy over there. He basically lost his dog in the dungeon, and the key got swallowed up by a giant salmon. So we have to go fishing with him so we can get the key. However, that takes a while. And we can just like infinitely jump up right here and just fall into the loading zone behind it. There's no real reason to do anything else. So right at the start here of Tsuta Ruins, I'm going to be jumping all the way up here. This is mostly to skip almost the entirety of the dungeon. Yep, there we go. So we just skipped about half of the dungeon, and we got about a quarter of the dungeon left to skip. And sadly, we do have to do 1/4 of the dungeon. We can't skip everything. That would have been nice. Just walk in, get the brush power, and walk out. It's technically what we're doing anyways. Anyway, to continue on here, we're going to have to destroy the 3 demon gates you just saw shown there. And of course, to do that, we are going to use our favorite little tool called the Exorcism Slip. Each fight basically just becomes, how fast can you menu? Which I don't mind. The new game strats for these fights are pretty sweet though. There we go. So now that we've done that, we can get a little mushroom patch. And I'm gonna mash here and hope to... Nah! So you might have noticed that in the top right of the screen, for just like a single frame, flash the start button. That is basically telling you like, you have 1 frame to skip this cutscene. If you don't get it, tough luck, you lose 18 seconds. It's really annoying, and there's no setup for it as far as we know, so we just mash and pray. I actually got it in practice earlier today, but yeah, it's just mashing and hoping that you get it. It's the only real annoying luck-based thing in this game. There's one other random thing though, but that's not for a while. So now that we've cut through the pots and made the water all nice again, we can go into the center of the dungeon. Now in the center of the dungeon, we've got these little patches, and we're going to be using the bloom power. Now you might see me like just draw in when the bloom power was a circle, right? Yep, but it also has the ability to do this basically. If you draw like 6 circles, is what I usually count, you can get it to bloom and become pretty. And by doing so, on all the patches, we get ourselves a new brush power. This new brush power is called Vine, and this is what it does. can basically pull things to these little Konohana flowers. And they're pretty nice. It's a pretty cool ability. And, well, we're just about done in this dungeon, so we're just gonna leave. But before we do that, we have to jump over a cutscene trigger right here. It's basically the cutscene of like, hey, look at this dungeon. But you can just jump over it. It saves about 20 seconds doing so. It's a nice little skip. So now I'm gonna sit back a little bit. Because for the next like 2 or 3 minutes, we just got some walking to do. We're gonna walk back to Shinshu Field, so let's just relax a little, you know? Just enjoy the beautiful vistas that the game gives us. And press the bark button. I haven't mentioned, I have a bark button. It is probably the most important button in the game, and I'm sad that I haven't pressed it before. So now I'm gonna press it a bunch. So now we're all the way back in Shinshu Field. We're actually going to do one of the things that the game expects us to do all the way at the start. So we're going to be jumping down right here, and we're going to go into that little hut. So in this hut resides a priest, and that priest has a problem. There's been like monsters marauding around Shinshu Field, and he wants them gone from the world. So he asks our help. Now the problem is the monsters only appear at night. So to give you like an idea of what to look for, the game turns at night and allows you to fight one of the wanted monsters instantly. And we're going to be using this fact because we want it to be night for the next little bit we're going to be doing. So by going all the way over here and fighting this fight, we can make it night. I do have to cross off the name. Hey, it actually worked. Sometimes crossing off that name can be extremely finicky, and the game's like, nope, you haven't got it. Nope, you haven't got it. And it's so annoying. It just keeps happening. So here the game finally explains us, oh no, it doesn't actually. Anyway, we're just gonna go into another demon gate. By doing it right now, by the way, we basically skip the game's explanation as to what demon gates are. And that saves us a bunch of time, basically. Well, not a bunch, but just enough. We are gonna get like the post-demon gate explanation, like, hey, look at what happened. But we skipped that cutscene, so. And by defeating that demon gate, we can go straight into the Mermaid Spring right here, and go all the way back to northern Ryushima coast. Remember before that giant, like, 8-minute KT section, we got ourselves like a fish to appear. Well, we're gonna be using Orca. It's like right there in the distance. Hey, Orca, aren't you a sweetheart? So we're gonna get on Orca, and we're going to be going off to a Watcher's Cape, or right there in the distance. Now, the game doesn't want you to go there yet, but we're just gonna force it anyways. And remember when I said that you can't do KTs on top of water? Well, you can do it on top of Orca, so we're just going to do that. And then we're going to go straight to this little guy. Now, he is called the Stargazer. What the Stargazer basically wants right now is a star. And because we drew him a falling star, he's going to make a wish, and he's going to wish for that giant galaxy to appear. Look at how pretty it is. However, there's a problem. It's not spinning. So to fix that, we're gonna be summoning wind on Earth so that it starts spinning. Look at that. That is a beautiful spinning galaxy, and totally how physics work. And by making the Whirlpool Galaxy spin, we actually get ourselves a Whirlpool. Now that Whirlpool, nice, actually leads to what is called the Dragon Palace. Now the idea of the story in this section of the game is that a water dragon has been terrorizing the sea and no ship dares to sail out. So we're gonna go over to the Dragon Palace and talk to the Dragonians because they are the owners of the dragon. And we're gonna ask them like, hey, what's up? Except we're not going to ask them. We're just going to say, you know what? I don't want to talk to your queen. I'm just gonna go right here and jump our way up and go out of bounds. And hey, there's the dragon. Well, what do you know? And jump straight into him. Going into the dragon, by the way, is part of the game. Don't worry about it. So inside the dragon, we're just gonna go to the back of the dragon. 'Cause there's a certain item that we're looking for here. But not before grabbing this key. Little optimization there. So a cool thing about keys is I can just drop it right now. Or I can just drop into the water. That would be cool too, I guess. But if we move away or the key despawns, you see it just reappears back into my mouth. It's a neat little thing you can do. So now I can just bark a little bit. And the key reappears, just like that. Now what the game expects you to do is to go back further into the dragon and release some gastric acid. Instead, we're going to be using a little trick. Now the game, as you can see, there's an orb at the back there, and we're going to be using a water spout on it. Now the game is programmed in such a way that basically using water spout on it will release the orb. Oh, I just skipped a cutscene, didn't I? Interesting. Anyways, by releasing the orb, we get into the fight against what are known as the fox fires, I think? Either fox fires or the fox rods. I think it's fox fires. Anyways, after beating them, we're just gonna walk around and store up speed so we can use that a little later on. Now, by defeating the foxes, however, yeah, I had a feeling. So this is a cutscene that I should have triggered earlier, but I accidentally was too late for that one. So after defeating the foxes, the dragon is actually dying, so you got all these little... We tend to call them RNG acid drops. We call them that because they just drop randomly around you. And during these jumps over water... Nice, I got lucky. They can completely mess you up and make you drop into the water. Luckily that didn't happen, so we can just keep going. There we go. Sadly, however, we kind of killed the dragon. Oops. We should probably, like, tell the Dragonians that we did that, shouldn't we? It's probably a good idea. So let's go over there. So we're gonna go over into the main chamber with the Queen of the Dragonians, Queen Otohime. Hello. And basically, story-wise, we basically did shown that one of our friends is under attack by the big bad of this area. So we're gonna go over to where that is to try and help them out. So we got this Nice little music that I really enjoy. And I get to sit back a little because it's just a bit of movement right now. Ba, 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 ba. Absolutely adore the music in this game. So, infinite jumping isn't the only thing you can do with the Karmic Transformers, by the way. I'm going to be showing off something I like to show off during marathon runs. I absolutely adore this little glitch. I'm going to go to a horse. I'm going to grab him. I'm going to switch KTs and whee! It's a cute little glitch. We call it the telekinetic grab. It does absolutely nothing except make the horse spin around. And I just like showing it off. It's one of those small things. So right here, we're getting close to where our friend was being attacked. However, there's some cutscenes in the way, so we're just gonna walk right here instead of through the middle onto the stairs and everything, and just skip our way to the final little cutscene. Hi, friend. Oh, she just went through the wall. How could that have happened? There was no wall. Oh yeah, we entered this area for the first time, so it's going to show us this bridge. And then we're in a completely different area. You're supposed to enter here a lot earlier in the story, and but however, we just like skip all of it. So we're just going straight over here into Queen Himiko's palace. Now, there's a slight problem inside of Himiko's palace. It's actually being guarded by a pool of lava. Don't ask me how it got there, but it is basically a pool of lava. Now, the way you normally get over it is by using what's called the fire tablet, but we don't have that. Luckily, the lava reacts in the exact same way that any other liquid does, so we can just do a liquid KT off of it and completely skip the fire tablet. Doing that skips like another 20-minute section. Do a quick fight against the personification of the big bad. However, the big bad messes everything up, and we're gonna have to go over to the big bad and destroy them, basically. There we go. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Ah, we got a pretty cool Karmic Transformer right here. This is actually a stone Amaterasu. I know some players love to play through the game with their favorite Karmic Transformer, and I used to play a lot with this one. So there you have the guards being like, "Hey, how did you get in? We didn't see you pass." Yeah, we didn't, so oh well. So again, we didn't clear Waka right here. Waka tells us things. And we actually cannot pass him the other way around than that we're going right now until we've spoken with him again. However, because the game expects you to come from this loading zone and not the other one, we can just walk away from him and we don't have to talk to him again. It's pretty neat. Also, the idea of this area is that you have all these sick people because of the mist, and they're slowly dying and not feeling well and whatever. But I bet they'll be fine. They can handle this themselves. We don't have to help them. Don't worry about it. Fly, go away. Anyways, there in the distance you can see Oni Island. It's like all the cloudy things and whatever. And we need to go over there and defeat the big bad. Now to get there, we first have to get up onto watch escape again. Oh, come on. There we go. Now I do have to be careful right here. I'm gonna skip the corner. That's not just because it's faster, but that's also because there is a fight trigger there that I'm trying to skip. So it's like small things like that. So yeah, thanks to some cool things that are story related and I don't feel like spoiling, we can get on to the Oni Island section via this giant kind of bridge thing. Okay. Now this is Oni Island. However, I don't like this dungeon, so I'm just gonna skip about 2/3 of it, something like that. And we're just gonna go over to the outside of the area. Now, most of the outside of this dungeon is on this same map. So what we can just do is by going over here, we can get to another section in the dungeon where it basically goes to the outside. Now, what I'm trying to do here is to keep my height as much as possible, and maybe even gain it a little bit on the slope. And to do that, I have to make sure that I jump the moment I land. We tend to call this green hopping, because you can only see green rather than also the yellow flowers and stuff like that. So right over there, you see a statue. That's where we're going. And I'm trying to... Yep, okay, that's close enough. And by using rejuvenation, we return an arrow on top of the statue, and it just shoots off. And by doing so, we get ourselves a new brush power. This is actually the final brush power we're going to be getting. It's the 7th brush power we got. There are technically 13 brush powers in this game, but yeah, we only need to get 7 to beat it. Now the interesting thing about the inside of the dungeon is that everything is on the same map as well. So what we can do is we can jump out of bounds here, like so. And hey, there's a loading zone. Well, let's go into it. There we go. Oh. Game audio got kind of quiet for me. Okay. So in this area, the moment I hit that kind of electrical switch thing, we got a cycle started. So I'm trying to be as fast as I can to get a certain cycle so I can... oh, that's not the button I want to press. So I can... oh, turn it down, turn it down, turn it down. Ah, damn, I missed the cycle. And, but oh well. And then again, by entering the key over there, we start another cycle. Now this cycle is extremely slow, so we don't really need to rush ourselves here. We can just just do this real quick and go into here. And then we wait for that wheel to open. And if I do this right, I can one cycle these wheels, but I was kind of slow on it, so it's fine if you don't get the one cycle, but you can go a lot faster into those. Now we're gonna jump over here. It's really hard to explain what I'm doing in this dungeon if you don't really know the layout. But don't worry about it, because we're jumping right into the best character of this game. He is the truest of speedrunners. His name is Toby, and he's a slab of paper. Hi, Toby. So Toby, what Toby does is he races you throughout the dungeon, and basically he is the guard of this place. And by challenging you to these crazy races, he's trying to kill you. He's pretty cool like that. Also, if you finish the final... Ooh, I thought that was a KT. Yeah, let's try this again. If you finish the final race with him, he will actually die. However, we never actually do the final race in New Game Plus. So, Toby lives. So we don't have to kill Toby, which is amazing. It's one of the reasons I absolutely love this speedrun. And right here, we're going into the next boss fight. Or actually, this is the first boss fight. So we've been playing this game for a while now, and we're finally going to see a boss fight. In this dungeon, we actually have to defeat the boss to make things go faster. So this is Ninetales. The idea is that you deal enough damage to him for him to do a certain attack. And if you hit him with thunder while he does that attack, he splits up, and then you can defeat like parts of him. And during each of these phases, you're looking for a big one and an old one. And because though they don't die to a single slip like the other ones do. And if you do that twice, you get into the normal fox phase, and then he basically just dies to one shot of our secondary weapon. And that was Ninetales. So we do not want to save the game because, well, obvious reasons. It will be really slow. Especially with the fact that I'm running this on a hard drive and not an SSD, so it would take forever to load and save and everything. So now that we've finished getting all the brush powers, it's time for us to go. Not all the brush powers, all the brush powers we need. It's time that we go to the final part of the game and finish it. So we're gonna go over here and use a mermaid point again. And we're going to travel all the way back to the start of the game, basically, with Shinshu Field. Now, because we defeated Ninetales in Oni Island right there, we've got Thunder over there. This is the main reason why we want to finish the game, finish that dungeon. It saves more time to finish the dungeon than to clip into the next area, basically. Because we have everything anyways. So right there, we use Thunder on the giant statue thing, and that opens up the way to the final area of the game. Now, the final area of the game has an amazing story, and there's a lot of cool things happening, and very luckily, we're going to skip all of that. So I will go off and highly recommend you to play this game. There's a lot of versions out nowadays, and we recently got ports to the PC, PS4, Xbox One, and the Switch. And it's a really, really pretty game, but it's also a lot of fun to play casually. So I highly recommend the game. The only problem is that this specific category cannot be run on those versions because the KT glitch as you've been seeing it, like this one, has been patched in those versions. So yeah, running New Game Plus is still done on the PS3 rather than the newer versions. There we go. And one more to get us out of bounds. So this area is still cursed as well. So we're just gonna jump over out of bounds. This skips like 2 fights and some long cutscenes. Even though we can skip the cutscenes, but whatever. There we go. That's not gonna work, is it? Nope. Not close enough. So I'm trying to let the tree be spawned so I can bloom it out of bounds. And look at that, it just completely destroys the rock. Wow, that is a strong tree. Now coming up next is a very scary section. If I mess up on my KTing, I might fall into a trigger, a fight trigger to be exact. And if I do that, I actually soft lock because I do not have the brush power needed. Ooh. Come on, thank you. Brush power needed to complete it. However, we just jumped over it, so no soft lock today, which is nice. I actually got my used an extra KT for that one for safety. Usually I do it in 2 KTs, but you can do it in 3 if you're a bit scared of it. I usually do that for marathon runs. So on to the village of this area. This is Webkier, and story-wise, basically all the people in here are scared of us for some reason. So we're just gonna leave them alone and move on. We don't really need to go anywhere anytime soon. So we're just gonna jump up here. Come on. Cute. And now we're gonna skip this little gate over here. In New Game, there's also an absolutely amazing skip for this gate, but KTs make life a lot easier. And now we're gonna go to basically the final area of the game. So in Kamui Asufuchi, there is a giant ship in the water. It's the Ark of Yamato, or Yamato, or whatever. I don't know how to do that one. So right there, that's where it is. You can see it. It's beautiful and big. And in the story, once you can enter it, it basically floats out of the water, and a giant rainbow bridge appears. However, there's something really cool about that rainbow bridge and what's at the end of that rainbow bridge. By KTing upwards right here, we can just go into the loading trigger for that scene, basically. So we just entered the the Ark of Yamato without actually like finishing the whole story bit of it. For some reason, they left the loading zone up there, which makes sense because like you don't really go there unless you have an infinite jump glitch, right? No developer can ever work around an infinite jump glitch. You really can't expect that from them. So the Ark of Yamato is basically a giant boss rush of bosses you've never seen before, except for one. These are all bosses that you find throughout the game, but we've skipped them all, so now I got to explain them here. So with Blight, you run up to him. That causes him to skip a cycle. It is really useful. It saves a good 2 to 3 seconds. Because we need this cycle to be able to beat him, because we actually do not have the brush power to defeat him. And we're just gonna go through the arc like this. If you got a donation or anything, you can fit one in between every fight.
Sure. We got a €5 anonymous donation. We got a €2 donation by Aura Blackwell saying BORK. And then
you.
a €20 donation by Fawn at 2600 with no comment. Thank you guys for donating.
So before some of these fights, you got this floating character who is basically just explaining the backstory of this giant arc. I'm not going to go into that because it spoils a bunch of things in the game, and I really don't want to do that. So we're just going to go into this fight. So this is the Orochi fight. You actually, in total, fight this boss 3 times, and we're going to be cheesing him. So the idea of this fight is that you make the heads do certain attacks, and by doing them, they make their mouths gape wide open, and then we splash some sake into their mouths so they get drunk. However, as you can see, we're doing 3 heads at once. This is not intended. For some reason, if the Earth Dragon is in that state, you can activate as many heads as you want at the same time. And you need to get 3 drunk before you go into the next phase. So we just do 3 at a time. It's a lot easier anyways. By quickly using a slip, we can go into the next phase. Now in the next phase, they're going to be lunging at us, and we're just going to whack them with our weapon. We do want our weapon to be fully charged whenever we do so. And there we had our first case of bad luck on the fire. Now the fire where it drops is completely random, and it can really mess you up, because if you're like waiting for a head to do an attack and it just drops on top of your face, you lose your charge and you cannot actually kill them. I'm also timing my attacks a little bit off. There we go. And the final head. Oh. So that's what happens if you don't have a full charge. There we go. Got him with my secondary. And that was Orochi. It's a really awesome fight to do, honestly. I used to absolutely hate it, but because of the new first phase, I love it. Also, I got a first frame dash. You can actually... before the little cutscene of the portal shows up, you can actually dash there. I think it's about 1 frame, and I just randomly mashed for it, and I just got it, so that's pretty nice.
So, Kenan, we got 2 donations in again.
Go
One
ahead.
from Tap War for €5 saying absolutely daily leaf. And then a €6 donation by Ketra with no comment. Thank you guys for being generous.
So, on to the next boss you've never seen before, that you were supposed to see. This is Spider Queen. Now, Spider Queen is the boss of Tsutai Ruins, and the idea is that you use Vine to connect hooks up to her back. Now, first what we're going to do is make us fly to the other side of the arena. This gives us a better view of the hooks on her back, but it also puts us closer to the warp at the end. Now, by connecting 3 of the vines, her butt opens, and you can just use 2 L-slips to completely kill her in one go. And if I put myself right, I should be right in front of the little portal coming up. And would you look at that. Now, I do have to be careful. Yeah, I had a feeling. So I was on top of the portal when it spawned. Now if you're on top of the portal, it actually doesn't activate until you leave the portal again. It's a really annoying little quirk, but you just try to get as close as you can without hitting it every time. And sometimes it's like, just for like a short burst, you're walking normally and then you get into the loading zone, and I always love getting that, so. Anyways, the next boss is Crimson Helm, I think it was? Yeah, Crimson Helm. The idea of Crimson Helm is he's the boss of the Guild Shrine. So he has armor. So first thing we have to do is get rid of his armor. Then he is in flames, so we have to get rid of the flames with Guildstorm, and then we can finally hit him. Luckily, he's a bit of a pushover, so he just dies really fast. It's really nice. And that's the next portal.
So I know it might be a bit early to say this already, but we got a €10 donation from Critical Sid, which you may know. Hi Kindad, good job on the run, buddy. Bork!
Bork. Thank you, Sid. Anyways, the final boss of this area, of the boss rush basically, is the only boss we actually have seen before. It's Ninetales again, and the same strats apply completely, so right off the bat we're gonna hit him with our secondary weapon like so. Then we're gonna shock him so that he splits, and we're gonna grab the big one, kill him with a sword, and then use a slip. And rinse and repeat. Oop, that was slightly early. And this time we find the old one. Now this time, for some reason in his second phase there's a little bit more health, so we're gonna use a slip to make it a bit safer to get the one-hit kill. Also because he likes to just jump around in this fight, and it's kind of annoying. So that is all the fights in the boss rush, and now all the red is gone from the Arc of Yamato, and we only have this beautiful blue. But by defeating all the bosses, the portal appears. And that portal leads us to the final boss of the game, who is called Yami. Now, I'm gonna preface this fight with, please, if you ever play this game casually, don't do what I'm about to do. Play it without using any items, and you'll have a wonderful fight, and you'll absolutely adore it. Don't do what I'm doing, because I'm gonna cheese him with slips. So we're gonna use so the idea of the fight basically is that at the start of your fight, you lose all your rush powers, and one by one you have to get them back by dealing enough damage to Yami. Now, because I'm so extremely overpowered right now, I deal so much damage to him that he can barely really do anything, and this entire boss becomes an auto-scroller to basically just like get your abilities back one by one, and it takes a while. And it makes a really well-designed, beautiful boss fight, and just makes it extremely boring. So that was the first phase. We're gonna go into the second phase. And you can already see, like, right before this cutscene happened, that he basically had no more health left. That is completely normal. That's just how overpowered we are. And we're gonna just... yeah, now he no longer has any health in this phase. Cool beans. Now you might notice, by the way, that I'm getting brush powers that I haven't actually gotten inside of the game while playing. Basically, the game doesn't really expect you to get here without getting all the brush powers. So it just gives them all back, and I can actually use them. I can use all the brush powers that I'm getting right now that I haven't actually gotten, which is pretty cool. Anyways, with a little tap, we're gonna go into the next phase, which I like to call rigging the slots. We're gonna use 5 L slips in a row. There we go, and now we've rigged the slot machine. No RNG manipulation needed. And we get more brush powers back. So in this phase, we just have to go through a couple of cycles of Yami just doing the slot thing. Again, if you actually just play this normally, it's an absolutely beautiful fight, but yeah. We kind of cheese it. We cheese it in every single category, by the way, because even in New Game, you can just buy a whole lot of slips at the end and use those to completely cheese the hell out of this fight. So now we get the final brush power in this phase. We're gonna go into the second to last phase. Yes, this boss has a lot of phases. There we go. So for this phase, I'm going to front load 6 slips. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. Because that way, all I have to do is use 1 slip in between the other cycles, so it becomes a little bit quicker in my opinion. Doesn't really matter too much. There we go. Just 2 more brush powers after that, and we're gonna go into the final phase of the fight. Now, in the final phase, you think you've defeated the boss, but then he returns and he takes your powers away again and makes it completely dark, so you can't even use the power of the sun to power yourself. And it's really dire and everything, and it's a beautiful story moment. Go play the game. But that's why it's going to be completely dark again right here. So the first thing you do is draw a sun, and still, because we've never technically gotten it, time, by the way, sorry, I should have mentioned. Because it's like, yeah. There we go. Final phase is over in an instant, sadly. And let's see what the in-game time is, 1:26:06. That is completely fine. That was somewhat the time I was aiming for. Even though my estimate was a 1:25, 1:30 would have been too high of an estimate, so yeah. That was Ōkami. If you want to play the game, you can play it on any of the versions. If you want to play the New Game Plus speedrun, get the PS3 version. And big shout out to the Ōkami community. They're a bunch of awesome people who just like play the game and just have fun doing weird glitch things and routing and everything. So yeah. Anyways, thank you for having me, BSG, and I think we have a bunch of Pokemon coming up, so that's going to be enjoyable. See you guys around.
Yes, thank you, Kinnan, for that amazing Ōkami run. And before we go into the ads, I quickly want to mention that we have a €5 donation by JimFreak739, which the Pokemon runners may know. And he says, can't stay to watch the Pokemon runs, but good luck to all of the runners for the Pokemon games. Especially good luck to Araya, doing one of my favorite speedrunning categories. Glad to see RBO back at another marathon. Well, thank you, JimFreak, and with that, I think we are going over to a quick ad break. So see you guys back in a few moments.